Hello.
Hello.
As developer N-Space does not tire of reminding us, Heroes of Ruin goes out of its way to make use of nearly every element in the 3DS's feature set. The result is an action RPG that certainly looks complete on paper. Is there actually a good game here, or is Heroes of Ruin resting on hollow technical achievements?
Greetings, take care.
Heroes of Ruin is set in the world of Vale, which is still recovering from the devastation wrought by the cataclysmic War of Ruin. The world was saved from the brink of destruction by a heroic being called Ataraxis, who became the guardian of the city of Nexus. The tale begins with Ataraxis being afflicted by a curse, and you're called upon to find a means of reviving the slumbering guardian. It's a decent enough premise. The main problem with the story is one that's unfortunately common in this sort of game. As you pursue the business of dungeon crawling, the plot goes on hiatus for long periods of time, and you never end up feeling attached to the world or its denizens. Factor in a cast that's largely unremarkable and some cheap cinematics, and you have a world that seems to go out of its way to prevent immersion.
I'll keep this.
Fighting your way through dungeons, scouring for precious loot is the name of the game in Heroes of Ruin. There are plenty of quests and objectives to fulfill over the course of the game, bolstered by daily and weekly additions via the Spot Pass feature to extend the game's length, which is a good thing since it runs a bit on the short side.
I can feel that.
You can take on the forces of evil solo, or form teams of up to 4 players locally or through an online connection. The game is at its best when you're playing with others. Otherwise, the trek is so overwhelmingly uninspired that you'll find it difficult to muster the will to carry on. It doesn't help that there are only 4 real types of environments in the game, with dungeons that feel samey despite the varying locales. Round that out with dull quest objectives that rarely deviate from the shop-worn kill and gather formulas, and you have quite the recipe for boredom.
I've got a job for you.
The allure of collecting rare loot to deck out your character only carries the game so far, and the character customization options are lacking. And while there is a lot of depth to the skill tree system, it often feels all for naught, since simply brute forcing your way with basic attacks often gets the job done. This is largely the result of shallow AI, defined by predictable and easy to exploit enemy behaviors. Heroes of Ruin checks off the list of action RPG fundamentals in a perfunctory, workmanlike fashion. Ultimately, though, it lacks the heart and imagination that's so crucial when it comes to distinguishing games of this type.
That's how it's done!
Regardless of what class you pick at the outset, everyone in Heroes of Ruin follows the same basic set of rules that govern combat. You're given basic attacks and defensive abilities, and earn talent points to unlock special abilities as you level up. Each class has its own unique playstyle, and there's a good bit of variety when it comes to building your character. This could have been one of the game's most redeeming qualities, were it not for the boring enemy behaviors. Enemies rarely surprise you with their attack patterns, and it's even less often that they show up in large enough numbers to give you a scare. There's a lack of variety overall when it comes to combat. The only times you'll need to dig in deep and formulate a strategy are in the rare instances when you're overwhelmed by a large crowd or during boss encounters. Since there's not a whole lot else to the game, the end result is a whole lot of plotting and mindless dungeon crawling. Also likely to bug you are the absurd inventory and currency limits. There's a hard cap as to how much you can carry, which normally isn't a problem since you can sell unwanted loot instantly. But when you're also full up on gold, you'll have to do some ridiculous logistical gymnastics just to continue adventuring. This involves buying useless merchandise to empty your coffers and then discarding the trash you just purchased. In a loot-focused action RPG, this oversight is beyond baffling.
I have to say I'm perplexed.
Heroes of Ruin looks just as generic as it plays. Environments feel like a copy and paste job from one zone to the next, character models are blocky and lack detail, and the cutscenes are comprised of low-quality still images that do little to immerse you in the world. What sparse voice work is included comes off as half-hearted, and the score never had a chance of salvaging this wreck.
I'll take this.
Heroes of Ruin fails to deliver a solid action RPG experience, and earnest efforts to tailor the experience to the 3DS hardware don't excuse its shortcomings. Underneath the surface, you'll find nothing more than a bare-bones experience of hoarding loot and plowing through mindless enemies. Don't wipe the dust off your 3DS just yet. This game isn't worth your time.
Goodbye.